Hello friends, how are you today? I'm so excited to show you these blue pings on the chart. They're essentially like rods of blue. And I want to show you what I discovered after I dug deep into this information. We're going to look at the frequency, quality, and amplitude charts. Before we start, I just wanted to remind you that I have a sponsor. It's a friend of mine. She makes these amazing, cute, beautiful purses, these are all handheld, or to put on a belt bag. Some of them have a medieval style. Some of them have just a really lovely, light style. They're on sale on Etsy with my code INSPIRED5. It will give you €5 off the price. And I'll put a link below. Go check out her bags. Give her shop a like if you'd like. Shipping before Christmas is not guaranteed. They're super cute. And if there's a gift where you don't need it exactly on Christmas, this might be the perfect thing for you. So thank you for taking a look at them. So you might have noticed these deep blue, well, if they were white, I would call them rods. They go from, almost 0 hertz, and they go to 40. Now, you see, I think there might be two things going on here with these horizontal green lines. There's this deep blue sort of rod, if you will, of energy. And then the green lines seem to be over it. They seem to be two different things. Look how deep blue the energy is here. We never see this at the top of the chart. It's definitely from 0 to 2 to 3 hertz, 2.5 hertz. Without these green lines here, it'd be very interesting to see what this chart would look like. I think there's two things going on. We have all these vertical lines as well. These are very reminiscent of the sets of vertical lines that we had in April. And we had those, if you remember what happened was, these vertical lines started to sync. They synced between 9 and 10. And I had this really cool video about how around July 4th, right before that, there was a space in the chart exactly between 9 and 10. The guide stones were destroyed. It was July 4th. And then suddenly, all these vertical lines started syncing, starting every day at 9 to 10. And that went on for like 18 days. I'm going to find a couple of those videos and link them below, and then they each link to the other, because I went into this whole long thing about it and what could be causing it. It was so cool. Talked about waves of earth energy. I think it's really informative. Those videos have a lot of really interesting information. So if you're new to my channel, then please check those out. They're really interesting. So the interesting difference with these lines is the amplitude is much stronger. And then we have this deep blue here in the very low frequencies. Isn't that fascinating? All right, I'm going to show you, let's see, what do I start with? Oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about. These very deep blue lines, there were two here at 8 and between 17 and 18 on the 28th. And then there were 3 last night. So we woke up to this. And I have been wondering about these blue lines. There have been these shadow blue lines on the chart it's been a few months now. I've been just keeping an eye on them, seeing if they start at the same time every day or not. And so far, there hasn't been a sync of when they start, for example. So it was not surprising to me to see the lines, these blue spaces, turn deep, deep blue, especially after we had the deep, deep blue of 0 amplitude. Let me show you this, okay? Because this ties right into the detail I uncovered in today's chart. Okay, so here's what I called the 0-point gateway. And what I did was I really went in this morning and analyzed exactly which of the resonances were at 0 hertz and for how long. So essentially this is on the 26th, so between 4 and 1300 hours, 0 amplitude occurred in green and red, and some of the yellow and white resonance. A little after 1400, 0 amplitude occurred in green and red only for a short time. And that corresponds with this blue line in the chart. So I want to note a couple things about these horizontal green lines that I just mentioned. So check this out. Right in here is about where the yellow and white resonance was above 0. And then right here, this little piece was above 0, and then this little piece here. But it's interesting because there were still some green lines. So this is how I was thinking about this morning, and this is what I was thinking about there potentially being two things going on. What I'm wondering, I queried whether there could be signals here, because the very low hertz are used for signals. See, the very low hertz can go all the way around the world. It takes a huge piece of equipment to generate the signals, but once they're generated, they go very far, and they can go like through water. I don't know, okay, if that's what this is, but I'm just saying that there's something here that seems to be operating at the same time as the resonance. Maybe it's some kind of interference in our atmosphere. I don't know. But what you see here is that the natural energy, for the most part, overrode it in this section between 4 hours and 1300 hours. That's right here. We see this a lot with the white resonance. What we see is that the natural energy overrides. Now, let me show you how I figured out about what was at 0 amplitude when. Now, this is from the 26th when we had the gateway. Let me make it big so you can really see. All right, so that's the 26th. Here's the details on the 0 amplitude gateway, and it relates to today's chart. You can see here, what I did was, these are estimates, but an estimate of when the resonance was at 0 for each resonance. So white was only at 0, these two little touch points during that gateway. Yellow was at 0, a couple little touch points here, there, and then for an extended period of hours. I think this is about 6 to 12 or something. Came back down right there. Red was at 0, except for that little poke up above, was at 0 essentially the entire time to 1300 hours, and then again at 14 plus. And green, like red, was at 0 the entire time. Actually, even this rise in green was still at 0, 0 point something. So actually, green was the entire time, including 1400 hours plus. And this is why I say it's so fascinating that the green showed up. And to me, that's why I'm wondering, is there something else going on here that's maybe not natural? And then I wondered this is just a question, and I don't have an answer to it. But if there's a natural resonance, right, that's generated, and then there's a technological means of generating the same hertz that happen to be in the resonance, does it show up differently on the chart? Now, in the past, when we've seen the technological effect, my answer's been yes. And I'm just assuming this is technological because of how it presents. And now I'm just wondering if there's something technological about this or not. Okay? You could also say because it disappeared, for the most part, it might be natural. Because I'm not, maybe I don't understand all the elements that are coming together to create this lesser pattern. So it could be that it's fully natural. I just want to say that. So I'm just presenting these interesting questions because I'm thinking about them and you're interested in this, and I thought I'd share it with you. And then over time, I make observations and we see what happens. It's pretty cool. You can see lightly in the background, there are a lot of vertical lines here. I don't know if there's a technological effect operating. It's not totally obvious if it is, or if this is some kind of natural energy, because we have all the vertical lines today. So now that we know about what exactly happened with 0 amplitude in this amazing chart of the 0-point gateway, now let's look at today and see what is going on with the deep blue lines that essentially look exactly almost like this in color. It is very, very reminiscent of just like a slice of this just appearing on the chart. Let's see what's happening. Okay, so what we've got going on is let's analyze these 5 pings. So the first thing that we find is that for each of these, you had a dip in green. And that dip was, for the most part, to 0.9 hertz or slightly higher. So here's 0.9. It's hard because of the key on the right. I tried estimating in here where 1.0 was, but it's somewhere in here, but I just didn't do it because I could see that some of these are essentially right at the line. They're right touching, maybe 0.99 or something. Here, let's continue this and see. Yeah, that one might be even at 1 hertz. See, this definitely dips into 0, past 0, lower than 0.9, and so does this one here. It's the amplitudes, right, that are affecting this. The amplitudes have a sudden loss in power. I'm just showing you the whole chart so you can see there were dips across the board. Now, according to the key, red and white were above 0. You know, the bottom in red was 1, the bottom in white was 2, and the bottom in yellow was 1. It's only green that went as low as 0 and 0.9 at the very bottom of the green range. So with the movement that happened on the 30th as well last night, you can see again, right, that these dips in amplitude, now on the 30th last night, they were even more marked, right, these dips that occurred, and you can see they occurred in all the resonances. So it appears that is a big part of what's causing these blue pings, these blue rods, if you will, of energy or of lack of energy. So I looked at the frequencies, and I got to say something. I had mentioned before in one of my recent videos, about in the last 3, that there had been a gathering around red here at about 20.08, and right there for a short while, right? And so what happened is that broke. Even though it came back a little here, you can see that it really broke well below for almost all day yesterday. So that was interesting. 20.08 was where the frequency wall had been on November 14th. And then in qualities, you can see that there's all of these spikes, okay? And this is in pretty much all the resonances, but where it's really notable is yellow and green, and then to a lesser extent red and white, because of the highs that occurred in green and yellow. Now, green still is really just mid-strength at these highs. Yellow at 21, that's a stronger quality for 21. That's more notable. But let's look at this. See all of these vertical lines. Okay. Now, I didn't track them exactly because, as you can see, there's probably 36 of them on this chart. So I didn't have time for that this morning. But you can pretty much see that there's groupings of these lines with qualities, and then also you can see it much more clearly here with the amplitudes, right? There's groupings of pings, of spikes here. So we're getting power, 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 power. Now, what you can see is that none of this is starting at between 9 and 10, okay? But from the spring into the summer, it took weeks for the vertical lines to sync together between 9 and 10, and that only happened after that special event around July 4th. So we'll see. We're going to just keep monitoring this and checking it out. I do want to mention with these vertical lines that the solar energies the last few days have been quiet, okay? Geomagnetics are quiet. Solar flares are quiet, there's bees, maybe a little C here or there. So it's fascinating that this is present. Now, was there recent activity, previous to the last few days? Yes. So we'll have to track this and see what happens. Will we continue to have these? I mean, this is an amazing chart. You know, it's full of energy. It's full of interesting things happening. And what does it mean, this deep blue energy? Similar to the 0 Point Gateway, I think there's a similar feel here. It's like we are at, in my view, we are at 0 point, or we have an opportunity to be at 0 point. Now, instead of experiencing 0 point, what may happen is that in the lack of energy, right, in the zero power, things may come to light for you that you didn't see before. And it's really interesting because in the astrology right now, all the near planets, which have sort of more day-to-day effects on us, all the near planets are squaring everything in Pisces, or at least they will be over the next month. And I'm just laughing because there's some important planets right now in Pisces, as many of you know, but they're sort of towards the end of Pisces. For example, Neptune and Jupiter. Neptune being the closer one, so it'll get touched on, aspected by these near planets first. But what I want to say is, I think a big part of this, a big part of the meaning energetically for us, irregardless of what exactly is the cause of these on the chart, we're having squares. We're anticipating having, in my view, because it's going to be at least 30 days for some of this to play out. But we're having the Mercury first, then Venus, Mars, and Sun are all going to square Neptune retrograde and then Jupiter, which was retrograde, and then at some point it's going to go forward. And what is this about? In Sagittarius, right, we have the ability to philosophize, to look ahead to the future. We can be very learned. We have the ability to travel and even travel between dimensions or states of being. And all of that is squaring a very spiritual sign, Pisces. And then Neptune and Jupiter, the two rulers of Pisces in ancient times and the modern day, are both in Pisces. And so it amplifies this idea of spiritual awakening, but it also amplifies incredible delusion, deep in the delusion. Any part of our lives that is deep in the delusion is going to get touched, and then most likely the opportunity to break that delusion, to break the spell, to break the trance is going to occur. And so the blessing of this is that we can use this energy to change our lives. We can receive great insights from the divine. This is amazing. I'm so glad you guys are here today. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to sharing more stories with you soon.